Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, my fine friends. Welcome to the 10th episode of Season 14 of the Tom Petty Project podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Brown, and this is the only weekly podcast that digs into the entire Tom Petty catalogue song by song, album by album, and includes conversations with musicians, fans, and people connected with Tom along the way. Okay, before we kick off this week's episode, I gotta talk about the recent hacking of my Facebook page. So, here's how I think this all shook out. Back in 2020, just before the first lockdown up here in Canada, my pal Randy and I, Randy who does all the music for the podcast, we started our very first podcast, which was called Holy F***, It's a Music Podcast. It ran for only 11 episodes, but it was a ton of fun and it really gave me the bug for podcasting. We set up all the usual social media, including Instagram, and on Friday of last week, I started getting notifications that there was irregular activity on the Instagram for that account. When I tried to log in, it was clear that it had been hacked, and try as I might, I couldn't get back in, despite submitting video of my face, going through all the hoops that Meta needs you to, so that they could check it was really me. And this was frustrating enough, but I think, because of the many failed attempts to recover the account, something got flagged on my personal Facebook account, and I was locked out. When I tried to recover that account, it eventually led to me being informed that my account was permanently suspended, and I had no option to appeal this decision. And this is madness to me. Surely having some way to submit a form to the company with your ID to reclaim your account is a basic function that any social media company should have in place. Alas, not. So I was forced to set up a new Facebook account and start rebuilding my network of friends, family, and contacts. Unfortunately, when you set up a new Facebook account now, it comes with a raft of restrictions. For instance, I can only add 2 or 3 new friends per day. I can accept as many requests as I receive, but I can only send 2 or 3. On top of this, I cannot submit a page admin dispute with the restrictions that I have. On top of that, there's no indication or guidance on what restrictions exist, how long they will last, or how one might go about having them lifted. When my Facebook account was suspended, 2 of my 3 podcast pages were also deleted, but I noticed that my Tom Petty Project page was still alive. Now, this was curious, but I thought that maybe because it has slightly more than 3,000 followers, or also maybe because there's no one else who's an admin on that page, maybe the protocols are different. Then, on Saturday, the page started posting all the crap you see on there currently, and I knew that it had been hacked. So at this point, I suspect that somehow someone linked my old podcast Instagram account with my Tom Petty Project Facebook page and figured that they'd be able to get in that way. I don't know exactly how this is possible, but regardless, it quickly became apparent that the page has been hacked and stays hacked. Now, I'm still trying to figure out Meta's processes for trying to recover this, and it's nowhere near as straightforward as you'd think. So I'm going to stick at it for another week to see if the restrictions lift or if I can get the hold of anyone or get to this, because I can't even get to the form to submit this page admin dispute. If I don't get any joy after that, then I'm just probably going to ask everyone to unfollow the page and keep reporting it, and then, build a new page and get everyone following that one. This has been incredibly frustrating. It's been an energy-sapping few days, to be honest. And I'd posted out a quick YouTube video on Sunday that I could share to all the hacked posts and said that really, it is just a Facebook account. It is just a Facebook page. And thankfully, the Tom Petty Project isn't a commercial venture for me, and I don't want to make money from it. This is and always has been a passion project and will continue to be so regardless of asshole hackers taking away a page I've spent 4.5 years developing a following on. But in losing my personal Facebook page, I've also lost 19 years of photos and memories and conversations, which is, that's a little more galling. But again, not the end of the world. A friend of mine recently lost his home to a fire. And when I say his home, I mean his home and everything in it. There's still wars going on in various parts of the world and lots of people who don't have enough to eat, a safe place to sleep, or can't afford healthcare, etc. So I am trying to keep all of this in perspective. It doesn't affect my ability to publish the podcast. And if I have to just abandon Facebook for promotion for the show, then so be it. There are lots of you I know listen every week and share your thoughts with me, and that's more than enough for me. I've actually been thinking about setting up a Discord server for the show to see if that's a way we could all stay connected. So as I think through that and whether it will be a good option and a good fit for this podcast, I'll let you all know. Right, enough doom and gloom. Let's check out some social media while we still can. Over on the accursed Facebook, I'm talking about Night Driver, my pal Mark Lindsay from Sight and Sound writes, the kind of song that gets buried in your catalogue when you are a musical genius. Also, a top entry in my imaginary album of Tom's I call Songs from the Lanai. Now, I think that's Lanai, or is it I and I? I'm not too sure there. You'll have to let me know on that one, Mark. Songs I imagine Tom wrote from the Malibu beach house. It includes this one, and Room at the Top, Walls Number 3, California, and Wildflowers, naturally Heartbreaker Beach Party as well. Please feel free to add on, if you please, to this concept album. P.S. Great to have you back, Kevin. Well, thanks as always, Mark. And man, oh man, this sounds like it would make a really fun episode, dude. I'll drop you an email and see if there's some way we can figure out how to get people to help us construct this virtual concept album, and then maybe you and I can jump online and we can do an episode talking about it. Right away, I'd probably add Love is a Long Road, Too Good to Be True, maybe Blue Sunday go on there. Anyway, Janice Bailey commented, I love the maturity of this song mixed with the sweet melancholy. And Cheryl Crystal added, every time I went to a T-Path concert, I always played this song on repeat driving home after. And yeah, really, this would be the perfect travelling album for a Heartbreakers concert, wouldn't it? Jenny Ponting says, great song, always reminded me of LA. And Chris Nestoridis added, I reckon you could drift off to this song and never crash. And look, Chris, while I definitely understand that sentiment, I'll just add that we definitely don't recommend testing this hypothesis. Now, I've often commented that I'd love to hear people's dissenting opinions, and it's absolutely fine for one song or another to simply not gel with you like others. So I was delighted to read James Ian's comment. He says, I like a lot of the parts of this song, but I don't like the whole a lot for some reason. I like the lyrics, I like all the production flourishes and the solos, but something about the rhythm of the song doesn't quite work for me. I don't know. I like it, but I don't love it. So there we go. There were lots of songs like that for me too, James. In fact, I was talking about one on this week's episode of The Ultimate Catalog Clash, one of my other podcasts. The song is All the Young Dudes by Mott the Hoople, written by Bowie, obviously. But it falls into this category for me too. I love the verse lyrics in that song. I love the chord progression. But I just don't like the chorus melody and the lyrics. And it's a much beloved song over in the UK, but it's one that just never grabbed me at all. Similarly, I'm still not a huge fan of the studio version of Restless, much to Robin Vincent's astonishment when we chatted. Over on Instagram, I think I upset Lisa Kelly Pennington with my rating. She commented, you definitely lost me with the technical stuff in this episode. I wish I understood. Kevin, a 7? You did not talk about this song in a way that indicated a 7. Maybe I missed it in the technical stuff. Damn it! And yeah, Lisa, I'm sorry. Look, I can see how this one may have come out of left field. It's funny that we view 7s as lower scores in this catalogue, isn't it? You know, a 7's a pretty damn good score for a song. I mean, look, American Pie would get a 1 out of 10 for me, even though it's, again, a much beloved, you know, sort of institutional song. And I'm sure I have 10 out of 10 songs that other people would roll their eyes at. And I'm sure my pal John Paulson will have an eyebrow cocked on a few on this album, for example. In any case, you're still batting better than 500, Lisa. So, you know, there's only 4 more songs to go this season. So, yeah, you're still, you know, we're still on track here. Don't worry. Thanks as always for your feedback, folks. And as I figure out how we're going to interact, and especially the voting moving forward, I'll keep you in the loop. So, on to this week's song. We're in the home stretch on Highway Companion now with only 4 songs left to go. So today, we're talking about Damaged by Love. In conversations with Tom Petty, Tom tells author Paul Zollo, I could hear the Everly Brothers sing that song. It's about time. Love is a funny thing because it can really damage someone as well as redeem them. And this preoccupation with time that pervades this album, either explicitly or implicitly, is front and center of this song as it kicks off. It's a really short intro in this song, only 2 bars, with Tom coming in vocally during that second bar and landing the word time on the first beat of the third bar. She don't care about time. Time gets in her way, fades into the wind, days roll into days. So it's always interesting to me how songwriters choose gender in songs like this. You could easily put this song in the first person. I don't care about time. Time gets in my way. But as soon as you shift it, then you're left with a choice of pronouns. And I think the song would work well from a male or a female or a non-binary perspective because there isn't really anything in the song that's gender specific. So I do find that interesting that it's she rather than he. Tom tells Paul Zollo, I played that tremolo guitar. It's basically just an electric guitar with a tremolo and an acoustic. It's very sparse, but it's a great song. And that tremolo guitar is playing each chord on the beat, and then there's the acoustic part underneath that's playing the 8th notes. The drums are sitting on a very simple, steady backbeat, allowing the bass to add a little more movement. It's a very relaxed, dreamy vibe again on this one. The chord progression is, although it's a fairly standard 1-6-2-5, with the 6 and the 2 being minor, as I was thinking about this one, it makes it maybe slightly unusual in Tom's canon because he doesn't use that major, minor, minor, major pattern, that 1-6-2-5, too frequently, if at all. Of course, it's a very, very well-worn progression, and it turns up in tons of pop and rock ballads, but it's not a form that Tom often takes. So I'll maybe have to go back and look, and think longer about this, but yeah, it's cool to hear, a very familiar pattern for maybe the first time in a Petty composition. We get 2 verses before the first chorus, and there's some excellent lines in this second verse. She's got nothing to hide, and she hides it so well. I love that line. It's basically saying that she puts on an air of mystery when really she's an open book, and keeps broken dreams to fix up and sell. It's a very nice, poetic line. It gives this character a real personality and soul that Tom is then able to puncture in the chorus when he says she's damaged by love. Wonderful writing. The very simple chorus with that repetition of the title line moves between D and A, and as it moves back to A, you get those floor tom hits in the turnaround. It's all very melancholic and very gentle. In the second verse, we get the absolutely gorgeous call and response accents between the piano and the lead guitar. The piano's sitting in an octave below middle C and plays the chords on the 1, with the guitar coming in between the 3rd and 4th beats, with presumably Mike playing a devastatingly beautiful lap steel part. Now, I suppose it could just be a regular slide part, and again, I'll defer to the guitar players on this one, but it has that lap steel tonality to it. Mike's really dialing it back and just doing enough to add a thick layer of sadness to this verse. There's rain on the road, and the faithful have gone. In a crowd all alone, walking round in a song. It's another great little snapshot or vignette, as Tom so often gives us in the middle of these types of songs, of perhaps a wedding or some other celebration at a small roadside church. And that feeling of being alone in a crowd is beautifully phrased by changing the order of the words. So rather than all alone in a crowd all alone, first of all, it feels more poetic, and it feels like it's more deliberately focusing on the alone part rather than the crowd part. And here, we have to tip our hat to Dana Petty, of course. Tom tells Paul Zollo, Dana actually helped me with 2 lines in that song. I was kind of stuck. It's not something I would ordinarily do, but I said, hey, what would you put here? What would you say? He then says, in a crowd all alone, walking round in a song, that was hers. So, hats off to Mrs. Petty, because that's a really strong bit of writing, even if it's only 2 lines. How many times in this podcast have we highlighted a single line or 2 or 3 lines as being the entire crux of a narrative that Tom is building, or just being brilliant in and of themselves? Well played, Dana. Well played. There's a harmony vocal added by Tom through this next chorus and also the last, and those tom hits in this section again really kind of remind me of You Got It. And the song as a whole, though Tom referenced the Everly Brothers, feels to me more like something the Big O might have done. And this is really reinforced as we head into another absolutely fantastic Mike Campbell guitar solo. What I love about this one is the double tracking. So there are 2 parts that Mike's playing here in separate takes, obviously, but they're not perfectly lined up. So Mike's striking the notes at very slightly different times in places. They're slightly behind the beat in a couple of places. And it's deliberate, obviously, to give you that slightly ragged separation. There's a very slight wear around the edges of it, damage, if you will. It's beautifully constructed and so incredibly simple, but so incredibly effective. And we've said it a million times, folks, as always, absolutely perfect for the song. Alrighty, folks, it's time for some Petty trivia. Your question from last week took us back to our road theme and was this: Dead End Street was a top 10 UK single for which iconic British invasion band? Is it A, The Kinks, B, The Who, C, The Dave Clark 5, or D, The Rolling Stones? So I've always thought that this track is one of the few songs that you could imagine being done by most of those British bands of that era. It would suit The Who if they did it in the same type of sonic style as Substitute or The Seeker, maybe. It would probably suit the Stones if they amped up the blues and let, Charlie Watts sit in a groovy shuffle. And it would have been an easy one for McCartney to add into his vaudeville portfolio of songs. Now, I don't know if it would have fit the Dave Clark 5 quite as naturally, so that means that your answer is The Kinks. The Kinks are, of course, most of you have listened to this for a while, know they're one of my favourite bands of all time, and actually, Dead End Street is my youngest daughter's favourite Kinks song. Your question for this week is this: The Heartbreakers' Take the Highway tour was the promotional tour for which album? Is it A, Long After Dark, B, Into the Great Wide Open, C, Wildflowers, or D, Highway Companion? Okay, back to the song. The solo ends and we move into the last verse, but to go back quickly to Tom telling Paul Zollo about the lyrics Dana wrote, he actually says, Dana actually helped me with 2 lines in that song in the last verse. So we know that Paul heard these songs before the album was released, so I wonder if Tom switched the order of the verses around, or if he just forgot that there was a 4th verse after the guitar solo. That seems somewhat unlikely, because it's the album he was working on and had specifically called Paul to come out to Malibu and talk about. Tom tells Paul, we were finishing the album and I wrote it at home. It was the last one I wrote. So in this last verse, we have the piano being mixed up slightly higher on the first beat of those bars, but we don't have the lead guitar accents. We also have some additional percussion on the 3-and, which sounds like a tambourine with a whole bunch of reverb added. The final chorus proceeds as the last one did with the addition of a repetition of So Young and Damaged by Love, with some more bassy tom notes before it. We end on a final chord on the tremolo and acoustic guitars, with the tremolo being allowed to decay out very satisfyingly. The song was never played live, as most of this record wasn't, and that's a bit of a shame, but you can sort of see that it might have been difficult to sequence this one into a Heartbreakers live set. But it reinforces my conviction that I'd love to have had full album release performances of these later Petty albums. Or how about if Tom and the Boys had ever done an MTV Unplugged style set? This would have been a great candidate to pull out for that. You know, add in a string section and you could really build this one. You know, have Mike playing a National Steel and those little accented sections in the solo, or maybe even let him trade with Scott on the harmonica. There's so many ways you could adapt this in a live setting, and it's such a warm, beautiful piece that it's a shame that the only person who probably got to hear this one live from Tom's mouth is Dana. But, as she wrote 2 of the best lines in the song, maybe we'll give her this one. Okay, Pettyheads, that's it for this week. When I'm heading into writing the episodes of this show, I generally tend to have a fairly decent sense of what rating I'm going to give a song. Quite often, though, little things within the song that maybe you don't hear when you're listening a little bit more casually can bump them up a point or 2, and this is definitely one such song for me. There isn't a ton to this one. It's a really simple chord progression. The structure is more or less verse, chorus, solo, verse, chorus, and maybe it falls into that little songs category that I talk about from time to time, but there's a real ache to this song that appeals to me. Damaged by Love, you know, we all know, and especially if you think about kids, as Tom tells Paul Zollo, when you think about what, you know, parents and adults can do to kids, the damage that they unintentionally inflict on them, there's real poignancy and pathos to this one. So the decision to use that tremolo guitar, the movement of the bass, and then Mike Campbell's scene-stealing guitar accents and solo, they all combine to elevate this from the 7 I was thinking it would be when I started writing. So Damaged by Love, for me, is an 8 out of 10. Tom Petty Project is a proud member of the Boneless Podcasting Network, which is a loose collective of podcasting friends and acquaintances brought together and championed by the inimitable Chaz Charles. Go check out the roster by clicking on the link in the episode notes. There you will find my other podcasts, Seaside Pod Review Queen podcast, that I do with my very, very best pal Randy Woods. And you can also check out the Ultimate Catalog Clash that I co-host with my great pal Corey Morissette. This week we just released an episode on the album Undercover by Ozzy Osbourne, which is a little bit hit and miss. And this next season we're going to be talking about In Excess. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Threads, and YouTube at The Tom Petty Project, and on Blue Sky at Tom Petty Project. Don't worry about Facebook at the moment. I'll let you know on that one. Go follow, like, subscribe as applicable, and again, please leave a review or a rating if you haven't done that already. Keep talking to me on social media, wherever that is, and I'll keep reading out your comments on the show. And as a weekly reminder, the Tom Petty Project is not affiliated with the Tom Petty Estate in any way. So, when you're looking for Tom's music, please visit official streaming platforms, or better yet, go to your local independent record seller to grab some actual physical media. If you're looking for official merchandise, go to store.tompetty.com. And if you're looking for merch for this show, please go to store.tompettyproject.com. Don't forget to check out the Tom Petty Nation and Tom Petty Fans Forever groups on Facebook. Oh, and don't forget to check out Jake Thistle Fans Forever if you're into Jake's music. Lastly, make sure you're listening to Tom Petty Radio on Channel 31 on Sirius XM. Until we meet again next week, keep listening to and sharing Tom's music. Try to be kind. Try to say I love you to someone at least once a day. Stay safe and healthy, and I'll be back with you next week to talk about this old town. Bye-bye.